Hey, thank you for clicking on the video. Sorry there's been a lack of content this week. I've been sick all week. It wasn't too bad at the early part of the week. Thought it was a little allergies, got much worse. But it's Sunday evening. I've spent about 10 hours this last week working on this setup, and it wasn't all in one shot. A lot of segmented driving through the week, but I still feel pretty happy with what I got. We are going to do this a little out of order because this is a rain week in PCC. So I'm going to do the setup first, show the hot lap, then we'll do the track walk. Then I will do a couple laps in the wet, come back with some notes for that. Thank you to all the new subscribers, everyone who's joined the Discord. I had this setup posted on Friday this week. I like to post things to the Discord early. Sometimes there's some changes before I put the video live, but I try to share everything I have as fast as possible. So check out the description in the video for the setup. But with that, let's jump into it here. Let's look at the actual setup. Let's garage and let's get into this. So obviously, if it's not raining, use your dry tires. Pressures, 26 across the front, 26 left rear, and 26.5 in the right rear. Temperatures we're looking at here, this is after a 6-7 lap run. Pressures, left side 27.3, 27.2. So even starting with that extra half pound, this side does build up more. It's less of a problem on the front, and just to keep ride heights where I want them, I just did 26, 26. Balance feels pretty good there. There is everything in metric, 179 versus 183. But with that, let's swap over to chassis. We went back to a 2 on the front anti-roll bar. I feel like Watkins Glen is smooth enough that you don't need the 1. I feel like if the track's a little bumpy, run a 1. If the track's smooth, run a 2. Also, it takes away a little bit of front grip running the 2, which helps keep the rear from snapping. The rear is very free, especially in a few spots on the track through the S's, especially. That I felt like if you ran a 1 on the front bar, the front gripped a lot better and the back end pulled around a lot sooner. Toe, we're still running the -12. I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, we kind of found that running a higher toe out or negative toe in. iRacing makes this confusing. Running the negative toe helps build up heat in the front tires in a way that feels really good. It also makes the car more stable on entry. So yeah, the front tires are working harder, but they are already, I mean, there's a 4-degree difference there. Those are actually pretty equal. Looking on the outside temps, looking inside temps, they're pretty close. So yeah, -12 on the toe in. Same springs as always, 1028 on the front, 971 on the rear, or 180 Newton millimeters front, 170 on the rear. That's just the spring package I've run. If I could run softer in the front, I probably would. But that's what we got. As far as the shocks, -5 on the front, -4 on the rear. Excuse me, have some cough still. The -5, -4 combo actually came from our Nürburgring 24-hour set. That's something Chad's been working on. I'll tag his channel down below. He does a lot of pretty good content. Definitely would recommend checking him out. Yeah, no, it's what Chad had on the Nürburgring set. I transferred it over to this and it felt fine. Overall, like I said, balance of the car is a little free in the rear, but I think that's just the nature of the car and the track. It's not uncontrollable in the slower corners. It's just some of the higher speed corners and kind of late on exit. I would say if you are concerned about that, take some damping out of the rear. So go from like, let's just say -4 to like -8. But I'm going to keep running with the -4. It felt good. And like I said, I think I said in last week's video, we're running less negative camber in the rear to stabilize it, so we don't have to get too aggressive with the shocks. So that's kind of what the goal is. Back to the front though, camber negative 4.3, negative 4.4. The difference there is just for ride heights. If I go 4 across, that lowers that more than I would like. So that's just what I got there. As far as rear spring rates, like I said, 971. Ride heights 5.05 inches. Metric 128.4. Pretty straightforward there. Just a little bit of rake in the car. As the car gets up to speed, that back does kind of squat out a little bit. Negative 2.9 camber in the rear. I did experiment with a little bit lower, but it's kind of a weird thing. When you adjust the rear camber, let's just go down to like negative 2.6 here, and I apply, that's going to change my toe in. So I have to change my toe. The problem is to get to a legal toe, plus 38, and we're talking thousands, so it's not much. I want to run the lowest possible toe in the rear, just to keep those tires from dragging. So that's why I'm running negative 2.9 with plus 37 on the toe. When you put the setup in your car, if it fails text, you got to just manually fix that toe and hit apply. Fuel 10.6 gallons, ARB 1 in the rear, and then 1.5 on the wing setting. That's the most downforce, and we're running that just to kind of keep some stability in it through the S's. But that's the setup. Let me show off in metric. And now that we've seen it in metric, we will go do the hot lap. I'll cut edit. We're gonna run the hot lap. Just for reference, my lap time, lap 1 was a 2-minute 169. Nice. 2-minute 9.3, 2-minute 9.9, 2-minute 6.35. By lap 5, the car really kind of came to life. I got down to a 154, 069, and a 062. I think I'm going to show the 069 lap. I felt that was a slightly cleaner lap, even though this one's slightly quicker. Both are really, really close though when we do our track walk. But with that, we're going to jump right into the hot lap, come back and do the track walk.
That was your fastest lap of the session. That was your fastest lap of the session.
All right, so we are back. We are going to do the track walk. We are going to use the lap the fast lap, the .062. Yeah, we're gonna go through here. Turn one at Watkins Glen is a little sketchy. I would recommend getting on the brakes just before the 300-meter board. I'm gonna actually take my steering wheel off here. I can actually see what I'm looking at. Can't see the bottom half of the screen when the steering wheel's on. But yeah, I start to get on the brakes just before the 300-meter board. There's also an indent in the grass there. You could use that as a reference just before that. I start to apply the brakes a little bit before I take my foot off the throttle. I'm not sure if that's quicker or not. It's just my muscle memory. I really should look at that in telemetry and see if I'm giving up time there. But like most turns in this car, you don't want to hit 100% brake pressure. About 70 to 80% is fine. Any more than that, you risk locking up. But you want to keep good, consistent pressure as you go down through the gearbox and release pressure off as you start to turn. Trail brake onto the apex. Now here I get onto the rumble. And pretty much as soon as I get to it, I'm back on throttle. Getting back to the throttle on this car, I actually did a little bit of practice this week in the Porsche Cup. Like I said, I was sick. That car was very similar in the fact that like once you got to like 70% throttle, 80% throttle, the weight hadn't fully transferred yet. And the 80 to 100 or the 70 to 100, that last little bit of throttle is really where the finesse is. 0 to 70, 0 to 80 in that range, you're fine. Once you get to that 80% mark, that's when you have to really be gentle with it. And this car, I would say, is very similar. Just ease on the throttle on exit. You can use some of this curbing and not get a 1X. You can see there, I don't have a 1X and I am halfway off of it. You can go wide. I don't know how far wide. I wouldn't risk it myself. I like to have clean races. Coming into the S's is going to be the trickiest part, in my opinion, with this car. With the way the setup is, with the way the car is, whatever it is, it's just free through the S's. I couldn't tame that out without making it way too understeery in other corners. But going into the S's, you can flat foot it. I kind of blipped the throttle there just a little bit. I do use some curb here. I try to avoid the curbs. This was more kind of me experimenting. I thought the 069 lap would be my fast lap, but I thought let's try one more lap. Let's be a little more aggressive in some areas and see what we can get away with. Using the curb was one of those places. Sorry, I'm still a little out of it. Cold medicine. But one thing I will say, arcing into the S's, you want to swing wide. If you take a shallow entry, you're taking a tighter radius, which is going to upset the car more. I try to take a big wide arc there, get to the inside. Obviously, I take some curb, and I try to stick to the right as long as possible to widen up the next arc as much as possible. So I turn back here. I'm trying to turn the wheel as little as possible. You can see there I start to get a little bit of oversteer on exit. I stick in it. Cut back across the track again, trying to put as little wheel in it as possible. One, I don't want to upset the car. Two, turning your wheel scrub speed. But yeah, we're straight up here, straight down the back stretch. I'll go back to full speed. And then as far as braking for the bus stop, I believe, yeah, okay. So I'm about the 500-meter board. I start applying pressure. By the 200-meter board, I am lifting off the brake and turning in. Right here, I could have got a little closer to that, but I feel, like I said, I was happy with the slap. The thing is you want to really be patient with the car and let it rotate back to the left. I am still, I'm going to say, under that 80% throttle point where you can still be on the gas, but the car's not like, I'm going to go straight or snap on you. I dance with the throttle, never getting back to 100% throttle, off the throttle. I am actually a little aggressive on this curb. Thankfully for me, it works out. I would think the lap before I wasn't as aggressive there. And that's just something to be careful of. It's just, there's a lot of time to be gained here, but there's a lot of risk involved. That worked out for me. I would probably try to grab less curb than that during the race, but when I do it, I'm patient, wait for the car to settle. Turning into this carousel is a little tricky. The carousel, excuse me, the carousel is very inviting. It tries to let you attack it, but if you attack it too much, you can't get it to rotate. When it doesn't rotate, you have a hard time getting to the exit. So what I like to do is I like to drive in, ride the brake, and I have two reference points. One is this pair of lights. So between that pair of lights and this hut over here, that's kind of the range in which I know I need to dance the car. So I kind of view it as kind of three parts of the corner. You have your entry, which I like to get to the inside. You don't have to be at the apex. Once I get to that light, I am now dancing the car to the bottom. And then usually by the time I get to that hut is when I like to drive off the corner. I'm going to go back through and show that in the cockpit view. So I don't know how to rewind at speed. But like I said, I kind of start dancing the car here. Let me pull my pedals back up. Dancing it around here. And like I said, I know usually once I get to that shed is when I could start tracking it out. So those are my two reference points. And then from there, I just drive off the corner. Pretty kind of straightforward once you know what you're looking at. Is that far chase or chase? No, out far chase. Okay. Going into the boot part of the track. I don't know all the names here. This corner is actually pretty tricky. You got a couple things to work with. So it's downhill, which is going to make braking a little harder. There's also a bump. I'm trying to see if you could see it. In the right there. I don't know if you could see that in the car. There's a little bit of a bump. So as you're entering, as you're getting on the brakes, you kind of go over this bump, which unsettles the car. But there's one thing about this turn that I really like that I've kind of caught on to. That curb, you see where the tire marks and the rubber starts to get laid down on the painted line? That is a good reference point of where you should be. So once you see that, like I'm a little late to it, but I get down to it. The nice thing is you also have a spot where that rubber fades away. So if you're able to get to the bottom and use that rubbered part of the curbing, you're in a really good spot. Like I said, the trickiest part here is the braking because of the way the bumps and stuff are. I'm never really, I don't think I even get above 50% pressure through that whole section. Just light braking, some trail braking, get to the bottom, and then drive off. The car is going to be a little free there, but like I said, well, if you're paying attention to where that rubber is, lay down on that curb, it's not too bad. I believe, I'm gonna call this like the toe of the boot. I don't know if I'm using the right terms. This turn is not too bad. It's a little tricky. The nice thing is it's uphill and it's cambered. So if you're a little off on it, it's not going to kill you. I feel like there's two ways you could take this corner. You could kind of diamond it, drive in deep, diamond it, and then get a good run out. Or I think what I do here is I try to just get a good sweeping corner. The back of the car is really going to dance on you here. It's just the way the car loads up. The M2 doesn't like that. I don't think it's a setup thing. I think it's just the car. But as you get back to the throttle, so you can see here, light trail braking, a lot of just no inputs. So maybe 60% pressure, release, let it coast, little pressure to get to the apex. Once I think I'm at the apex, I'm pretty much hammer down, drive off. Like I said, it is uphill, so it's not too bad, but the back of the car is going to get free through there. This would be the heel of the boot. The track's up here. I could see the boot now. The heel of the boot. This one's not too bad. This is another kind of one of your bigger braking zones. By the 200-meter board, I am getting on the brakes pretty much 70-80% brake pressure, about as much as I'll use for turn one. Same thing, release pressure as you get down to the apex. Again, you'll have rubber on the painted line to kind of guide you. There, I get off of that a little early and get back to the throttle. I do use some of this off track, but I don't get an off track, so you have the room to play with there. And this corner, in some cards, it's really tricky. I feel like this turn is easier in this car than some of the other ones I've driven in the past. I think this is turn 9 or 10. But you're basically coming out of the heel of the boot. You're turning back onto the NASCAR straight. But you get light brake pressure in this car. So again, I'm about 50%. Turning in, a little bit of extra brake to get to the apex. Again, we have that rubbered up line to guide us. I'm off of it a little bit early, and I think that does hurt me a little bit on exit. But not too bad. If you deal with the back of the car snapping there, just lift a little bit, maybe try to back it up a little bit. For whatever reason, in a lot of other cars, I have an issue with the back of the car snapping there. In this car, it felt very tame. I'm not sure why, but I'm not going to complain. That is a third gear corner as well. You never should get down to second gear at this track. Coming back through here, I'm all the way over to the right side, trying to take as big of an arc as possible. A little touch of the brakes, not much. In fact, this is why I probably didn't want to use this lap. I grabbed too much of the curb here, and that kind of shoots me wide. And I run up onto the curb. You'll see some dummies driving like way out here because you can carry a lot of speed off. But, and I think I've said this on every track guide, you got to remember the next corner. So if I go like way out here, then I have to just cut across the track to set up for the final corner. And by doing so, the car is never going to be settled. So like, yeah, you could run wide here, but you're really compromising the final corner. So pretty straightforward. I cut back across the track, cut back. In fact, you can see I start to apply the brakes. And my wheel's not even straight yet. I don't like to do that, actually. I like to try to have my wheel as straight as possible when I do the braking. But like I said, I ran wider here than I would typically like. And it is what it is. Yeah, 50% brake pressure, ease off the brake. Here you can grab a little bit of curb. I am to the throttle early, trying to get a good run. You want to dance the car all the way to the exit. And that's a lap. Sorry, hiccup. Yeah, I still feel bad. Yeah, that's the track walk. The way I'm going to edit this, like we're going to do setup first, then hot lap. Then this is the track walk. I am going to get that edited and set up. Then I'm going to try to do some laps in the wet, and then I'll add in a little extra here in a moment if I think there's some to add. All right, hey, just finishing editing this video. You actually probably see it on the screen here. I went to try to go out while it was raining. I couldn't get it to rain right, and I did go out on a wet track, but it was just a wet track. Like, I didn't feel like there was anything I could really add that's not already been said about driving in the wet. As far as try to run offline, don't drive through the rubber. The only real advice I have for the wet is, in this car, you want to use custom controls because you don't have brake bias. So whatever you use to adjust your brake bias isn't going to be working in this car. Go to custom controls, click the box, and then whatever you use for brake bias, use that to change your throttle mapping. There's a dry and a wet throttle map. Some people like to use the wet all the time, even in the dry. You can be more aggressive with the throttle. Personally, I don't like it. But the only real advice I have for driving in the wet, that's specific to this car is having that throttle mapping on hand where you could quickly switch to it. You just want to change that one click, go to the wet mapping on your dashboard. If you're able to see the lights on the dash, right side bottom light will go green or blue. I believe green is dry, blue is wet. I could be wrong on that, but just check that. That's the only real thing I could recommend adding for wet weather driving. Again, thank you for everyone who's liked these videos, commented on them, subscribed to the channel, joined the Discord. I really, really appreciate your support. I'm sorry I was out of it this week and just didn't get any other videos up. I might try to squeeze in a Long Beach sometime tomorrow if I can. It's going to be tight. I was really, really looking forward to that. I felt like my pace was really good. It just unfortunately got sick, and I'm not going to try to force a race and just have a bad experience. But yeah, no, thank you for everyone watching. Sorry I don't have much to add for the wet weather. Put your wet tires on and put it to wet throttle mapping, and you should be good. Or as good as you can be. What else? I think that's it. Oh, I also tried this new effect where I zoom in on the steering wheel and pedals for the track walk. And let me know what you think about that. I think it looks a little silly, but I think making it a little bit easier to see might be helpful for some people. So let me know what you think there. I do it the same way. I zoom in on the setup. I basically duplicate the video, zoom in on, crop it. Did the same thing here with the steering wheel and pedals. So let me know what you think about that. But again, thank you for watching. Good luck next week in PCC. Be safe. Finish the race. You can't win if you don't finish. And yeah, thank you for watching and have a great day.